Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Ever since I bought these 3.5 acres, I've been hard at work developing it into one of the most beautiful acreages around, and the best part is that I've been filming every single satisfying detail. Alright, well, when we left off in episode 7, the weeds were overgrown and needed to be taken care of, so I spent a couple hours with my Honda trimmer whacking them out of existence all around the yard, including in the tree lines. Then I turned my attention to a drainage project in the peninsula where I needed to manage the water coming off the shop roof and get it out to the ditch, but I also wanted it to look nice, so I covered the drain pipe in rock to give it the illusion of a dry creek bed, which I think is going to look really good once I can get some mulch in here. And speaking of mulch, that's exactly where we're going to pick things up, or more specifically what I'm picking up right now. If you recall from episode 6, my tree trimming friends had brought me a load of mulch, and today's the day it's getting moved over to the peninsula where I recently planted a whole bunch of trees and shrubs. Now, like I've mentioned in previous videos, my goal is to get all of my plantings covered in about 12 inches of mulch, which means the entire peninsula here, all of the tree lines, and then any other interior plantings I end up having. Obviously that's a very ambitious goal, but one that I think is extremely necessary for a number of reasons, one being weed control. Now, as I work on spreading this mulch around, to my earlier point about weed control, this mulch is going to be critical to my sanity. I've been dealing with weeds for a couple of years now, and with the size of my property, it feels like it's a full-time job just trying to manage them and keep them at bay. Once I get things covered with a foot of mulch though, it's going to suppress the weeds, and I really shouldn't have to deal with them again for quite some time. Okay, here's a quick look at what I've managed to get done so far, and while I still have a ways to go, it really looks great. Pretty clear I'm going to need to get my hands on a lot more mulch though. Alright guys, with the mulch taken care of for now, I'm actually turning my attention to the house, where I've got some security cameras that I need to install, which is going to involve me terminating the ends of the Category 6 Ethernet cable that I ran when the house was being built, and then just plugging the camera in and securing it to the house. Now, if you guys happen to watch the studio build series that's over on my other channel, the Detail Geek 2, you would have seen me run a whole pile of Ethernet cable and speaker wire in the shop for an audio system and security cameras, and I of course did the same thing with the house as well. The only difference is that I had to do that in the middle of February when it was minus 30 degrees Celsius. It took me about 2 full weeks of 6 to 8 hour days to run nearly 4 kilometers of wire throughout the house for cameras, speakers, TVs, and in-ceiling echo dots in nearly every room. It was a huge amount of work, but one that I also did on my last house that I built, so I knew what I was doing and just couldn't stomach what it would cost to have someone else do it. Now, for those techie people out there that might be wondering why I chose to go with wired cameras and not Wi-Fi ones, well, my goal is basically to have as many electronic devices hardwired to the internet as possible so my Wi-Fi network doesn't get clogged up. These are power over Ethernet cameras, and if you're wondering why I have two in the same spot, well, my plan is to have one pointed out into the yard and the other will point downwards. Okay, well, this wouldn't be a Yard Geek video unless I took care of some weeds, and there's no shortage of them growing out of control in the backyard right now. Because I've been busy with all these other projects like the peninsula, mulch, and cameras, I haven't had a chance to do anything to control them, so they've kind of gone crazy here. Of course, besides this looking terrible, I don't want to have all these tumbleweeds blowing around my yard and depositing even more seeds, so I need to do something. Of course, using my trimmer isn't the most ideal weapon for weed control, but it's really the only option at this point. I did manage to pull some of these, but for a lot the roots are too firmly in the ground. Getting to them before they got this big would have definitely been the best scenario, but I haven't bought a ride-on mower yet because I'm waiting until I have grass to do that, and I'm trying to limit my use of Roundup as well. Now, as I continue whacking away at these weeds, I just wanted to say that this was not an easy job. These weeds were huge and the stalks were thick, so I went through a pile of string on the trimmer today. If anyone has a recommendation for a more robust string, maybe something made of metal for the Honda trimmer that I have, please let me know down in the comments. Now, one thing you guys might have noticed is that I'm wearing gloves to do this, but these aren't just any gloves. They're actually an anti-vibration glove that I got off Amazon, as I've unfortunately got carpal tunnel in both my wrists, so these definitely help reduce the fatigue and numbness. I also wear them when I'm working my Bobcat, and I'm sure I'll find a lot of other reasons to put them on in the future as well. I'll leave a link to them down in the description for you guys if you're curious and want to check them out. Here's the aftermath of a couple hours of weed whacking, and while this might look good, there's still a ton more to do. Looks like my trimmer could use a good detail though. Alright, well, another day is here, and as you can see, there's still some giant weeds in the backyard to deal with, but thankfully not nearly as much as there was a day ago. While I get started though, I wanted to ask you guys for a quick favor. If you've made it this far into the video, I'm guessing you're enjoying it, so if you haven't already hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, then I'd greatly appreciate if you did that right now. The algorithm can be pretty fickle these days, so it would be a big help if you could do that for me. So like I mentioned earlier, some of these weeds are absolute units and nearly 4 feet tall like this one, and the stalk on this thing is over an inch thick and really strong, so there was no cutting through it. Okay guys, like I alluded to in the community post I put out a week ago, big things are coming, and here they are. No, I don't just mean the semi, it's what's in the semi that I'm excited about. I think I mentioned it a couple of videos ago, but the tree trimmers who were bringing me mulch was never going to be the solution because I just needed way too much of it, and after finding a line on more of a bulk purchase, I pulled the trigger. This entire semi is full of mulch and my trees are going to absolutely love it. Of course, getting it in the yard is the first step as it's a little tight, but thankfully I've got just enough room for him to be able to pull in, turn around, and back up to where I want the mulch dropped. Now as for where this mulch came from, well, it was quite a ways away. It actually came from one province over in Manitoba, so this semi-driver had about a 5 to 6 hour drive to get here today, but this mulch isn't quite the same as the other stuff the tree trimmers were bringing me. They of course had chopped up live trees, like my neighbor's poplars, and the last time it was some big spruce trees. This stuff though is actually post peelings, or basically a byproduct from the process of making things like fence posts. So it's a great use of something that would otherwise likely be garbage. Though as I stand here and watch the mountain of mulch grow, it's looking more and more like a giant mountain of work now. Okay, with the load of mulch unloaded now, I had already lined up a second one for the very next day. This time a different driver brought it out, and after trying to estimate how much of the tree line I could do with one load, I figured I'd get this second one dropped off in the back corner, basically trying to strategically place the loads so that when I'm moving them with the Bobcat, I limit the amount of distance I have to go from the pile to where I want to drop it in the tree line. Travel time in the Bobcat is what takes the most time for a job like this, so hopefully I've got the 2 loads dropped in a good spot. Now, if you're watching this and thinking it must be some sort of magic that's responsible for the mulch just nicely removing itself from the trailer, well, it's not. The trailer actually has a conveyor belt system in it that's able to get the trailer emptied out in just a couple of minutes. Pretty cool. Of course, since I'm a sucker for punishment, I had a third load come later that same day, but this time I wanted it dropped in the front yard, as I planned to use it to finish off the mulch in the peninsula, though I have to admit that it's kind of fun just watching the pile grow like this. Now, even though I didn't need the whole load up here, I didn't really have a choice as it had rained before the truck got here, which meant the yard was muddy, so I had him split the load so he didn't have to drive off the reclaim, getting muddy tires in the process, only to bring it all back onto the reclaim. Okay, well the next day it was dry enough to start moving the mulch and getting it into the peninsula to finish things off, though I'm not quite able to fit Bobby into some of these spots, nor do I want to drive over my irrigation lines, so I have to dump it into the wheelbarrow and transport it that way, which really slows things down. But once I've got this little section finished off, I should be able to drive right in and dump the rest where I need to. Now the moment I could get Bobby in here, I did, because it's far easier to be able to just drop the mulch right where I need to, but even still, getting all this raked and spread out is going to be a huge job too. And if you guys are wondering why I didn't put something like landscaping fabric down for weed suppression, well, it's because that doesn't really work. If I had fabric down, the mulch on top would break down and compost on top of it, allowing weeds to grow above it. Plus, the fabric would prevent the nutrient-dense compost from getting into the soil. The foot of mulch I'm putting down will take care of the weeds and feed the soil while it breaks down. Okay, as I keep working on the mulch here, I wanted to ask you guys a question. As I edit these videos, I'm often cutting out some footage and obviously speeding things up in a lot of cases, which has me wondering if anyone out there would enjoy seeing real-time footage. My idea was to run a slew of footage as a live stream, something you could just pop in and out of or watch later, but if you wanted to see things in real time, you'd be able to. I'm thinking that as I have some more technical projects coming up, that giving you guys the ability to watch it in real time might be nice, as you'd be able to see what I was doing easier. I don't know. It was just an idea that came to me this past summer as I was filming some content, and as I was looking at it, I found myself really enjoying watching it, and I wanted to figure out a way for you guys to see it in real time as well. Anyways, let me know down in the comments what you think. Obviously, the live streams would be in addition to the regular videos that I've been doing, so let me know if that's something that would interest you. Alright, well now that I've got all the mulch moved into the peninsula, it's time to spread it all out, which is a big job in itself. Like I said earlier, I'm aiming for about 12 inches everywhere, and I'm also making sure to pull it away from the trees and shrubs a bit so the trunks don't rot. Okay guys, with the peninsula done now, it's time to turn my attention to the tree line where I had started a couple videos back. I've already gone ahead and pulled back the fence so I can drive right in, but again, I don't really want to drive over my irrigation lines. Even though I think I could without damaging anything, I just don't want to risk it, so I'll drop the mulch in the middle section and then just pull it back towards the outside fence with the rake. Now Now as I work on spreading this out, you can probably tell that a lot of the spruce and pine trees I planted still aren't looking fantastic after the winter we had, but they are all trying really hard to be good little trees. I'm really hoping that the mulch is the answer for all the weeds, but also helps improve the moisture retention for these trees so they can bounce back quicker. Okay, once I had the middle and outside section spread out, it was time to put the fence back on, so I could just drop some more mulch right over it, and then quickly get it spread out. That way I won't have to fight with getting the fence back on if the mulch were already there. Here's a quick look at the results, and I gotta say, it looks phenomenal. The trees already look happier, and like I said earlier, I'm really hoping this mulch means huge changes for all my trees and shrubs, though only time will tell.
Alright guys, well that is where I'm going to wrap it up for this episode. Again, if you enjoyed it, please make sure you smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. I cannot wait for you guys to see the next video and the massive changes that are coming.